Okay, so your turn to drive.
I drive now. Okay. I'm wanting to adjust this just a little bit. It's adjustment. Yeah. To look at you a little bit more. There we go.
I do not have the ideal equipment in this moment.
I'm feeling very silly.
Please.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I welcome all of you. Whoever is here.
I have just been letting myself loose a little bit more. My entire drive up from Southern Oregon, where I was working, and the wonderful smoke. It's so smoky, and it's challenging to begin. We felt it last year.
What day did you come back? How long ago? How many days have passed since you
Monday, so 5 days.
Oh wow, okay.
4 days. Yeah, I would say 4 days. Feels about that. And I've been just kind of doing car work and spending all the money that I make for my vehicle in the meantime. It needs to happen. This is my home.
And is it going to be like super dependable now?
Sure.
as dependable as a car of its age can be.
The brakes will be fabulous. It's not going to be a death trap. It's absolutely great. Not that it was before, but I'm actually doing some proper maintenance on a vehicle instead of waiting for it to go to shit, which I've totally done in the past. So thank you. I need it. I'm adulting. Oh my God. Not that it's easy. And then I remind myself, I think I saw a bunch of TikToks. I went down the TikTok rabbit hole. So this whole past week and then the previous weeks for my birthday, I just went into like this numbing phase, this fucking numbing phase that was just like, I'm exhausted. I'm trying to juggle more than one job at once. Then beating myself up for not just being on unemployment while I can write it out. And then I'm like, whatever, stop it. Just, I'm judging myself. Criticism's coming up. Then reflection, because I'm hitting 33. And I feel like that's that magic number. Everything's going to click, right? I'm going to become a superhero. And then I like all these expectations, you know? And then I reflect on the past year and I'm like, not where I want to be. And because I was working and then exhausted and then my work was dragging on. And when you're exhausted, I'll figure it out. When you're exhausted, it's just like everything goes to shizer.
Oh my God, I hope that you haven't been cut off the whole time. Shit. Well, we're going to learn a lot.
We'll figure it out.
We're learning a lot.
I was thinking maybe like working on my turkey.
Oh man, my neck.
Oh, we did neck exercise. But anyway, yeah, going into a shithole and a sinkhole of negative habits. And for me, that's like the embarrassing ones, like going on TikTok or YouTube. I don't even go on TikTok. I go on YouTube compilations of TikTok videos. I watched, I think 10 movies, except it was movie recap. So 15-minute movie recap videos, not even watching the whole movie. You know, I'm like, what am I doing? And so there's judgment on that, which it kind of feels a little bit efficient. I'm just like, look at all the movies that I'm getting.
I'm like, well, if you're really wanting to catch up on some movies, that's actually kind of a genius way to do it.
Well, that too. And I'm like, well, I'm getting the highlights or whatever. But, you know, going through a movie is different. I think I'm distracting. I'm not wanting to feel. So this is like me kind of diving into it. And then I'm not wanting to feel my feelings of maybe disappointment or sadness and moving through them differently than just beating myself up. And that's what I did kind of around my birthday, was really felt myself beat myself up. And so there's a fear of not wanting to feel that. So that's where I think the avoidance comes in. So I'm trying to follow those patterns, a lot of pattern pulling. Meanwhile, I'm still engaging in some of these, like staying up till 4 a.m. last night. What? YouTube. I fell asleep and then I woke up again and I started looking at more YouTube. And I'm like, what am I doing? I know. No, I'm like, that's a shame. But I'm like, oh, that's not good. And it hit me today during acupuncture because I haven't gotten, like, I've neglected my routine and haven't done the body work, even though it's been popping up. I've been trying to listen to myself more, right?
Please do.
That internal compass. Where it's like the little gut feelings. It's like, hey, you should work out. And you're just like, you know, kind of drowning yourself out with another cat video or something. And it has pants. The cat has pants. So that's where I'm kind of working on. And then it's like, for like face picking, my skin picking, pimple popping, whatnot, like that has been, like an embarrassing, but almost self-soothing coping mechanism that's so unhealthy, that's been with me for years, that I want to share more of, because I feel like when we share shame, things that we're ashamed of, it gets less scary and less big, stuff like that. So that's kind of a big one. I guess that's like what's alive. That's kind of a recap. Yeah. Not wanting to be as hard on myself.
Mhm.
Bing bong. Okay. That's a good way to stop.
Can
right
you
there.
can we reset it to like wrap that up so that we have another 5 minutes to?
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted to say to kind of complete your thought?
Ooh, noticing not doing some of the basics on my routine. So meditation, that helps with focus, grounding, being in my body, also prioritizing. That's a big one. Exercise helps me move energy, release emotions. It also helps me emotionally regulate better. So those are some big ones. The Tai Chi, doing that in the morning, or Qigong, which I'm like, ooh, I want to try to do that class, or at least find like there's some free Zoom ones and whatnot. So I'll put that in the show notes at some point. But that feels like just these things that I'm reflecting back and going, wow, I implemented this stuff like more hardcore after my MRSA shit because I needed to. And that was fear-based. That was like, oh my, I don't want it to go that bad. I don't want to be in the hospital. I don't want to fucking do this. Like, and now I'm like, oh, when the fear's not there, it's not as motivating. And I'll slip. But it's like getting curious about that. Like, why am I doing this kind of stuff? So it's just been fascinating to be like, oh, this is why. Why do I want to do the routine? Not just like, I have to, blah, blah. It's like, why do I want to? What is the end? Keeping that alive.
Yes.
So going back to like, for me quitting smoking, it was like, no, what got me through it? What's continuing to get me through it? Because now I can be around smokers. Woo! I can be, yeah. Like I could see your cigarette butts there. And in the past, I'd be like, I'm going to totally take a cigarette butt.
Not mine, but
no.
Yeah.
Sorry, somebody else's. Apologies.
Yes.
But we want to make sure we don't negative ownership or
I
anything.
do not smoke cigarettes.
Yes, no. I just saw like a thing of cigarette butts, and I was like, in the past, it brought me up to like getting them and then taking the tobacco out that was already smoked and then rolling it up, like really gross, but totally smoking it. And a little bit part of me, like my mouth waters, which is really gross, but that's a nicotine craving. Yes. And getting touch. Yes. And then going on dates, that's been interesting. Recognizing I'm craving intimacy, and then the priority that pops up when I get these epiphanies of clearness, like after acupuncture or something, I'm just like, oh, let me engage in the relationships I already have, because that is what really feeds me and fills me.
And we miss you.
I know. It's interesting. It's an old like early 20s thing where I would just chase boys, but it was for validation, intimacy, connection, love, wanting a sense of safety. So recognizing I can not only find that in myself, but in the community that we've built. And
there's a lot of really lovely humans who just totally want to be there with you.
That's that's the new one. It's like, okay, continuing to like reach out and ask for help, or be a part of support groups, or be a part of other things, like doing this. Thank you for having me.
So now, unfortunately, I can't remember like what some of the specific things were that I wanted to like come back to. But I know I definitely resonated with a lot of what you said. I feel like we've really been on where our details are different, but we are definitely on parallel.
We are often.
And so yeah. And I let's see. I think one of the main things I wanted to come back to was just kind of this theme of that we've both been talking about of, okay, another time that I was in this situation, in a similar situation where there's a lot of body stuff going on, and there's a lot of other like psychic difficulties going on, how did I engage with it? How did that turn out? And do I want to keep doing that? Does that work? Am I happy with that outcome, or do I want to try something different?
Yeah.
And we had been talking a while back about, there was a time when I sort of emphasized the opposite, and now I no longer want to emphasize opposite. I want to emphasize just different, even if it's just a few shades different, just to in the direction you really want to go.
So to clarify that, because I felt a little bit lost for a second. So instead of doing the opposite, would it be instead of doing the opposite of what you're doing? So say you're doing a habit that feels like negative, like for me, it'd be on YouTube. You would throw the phone away and not touch it. Like that would be the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, but it sounds like you're just having way more softness.
Yeah.
And so that's also like more realistic.
Yes.
Because it's like, it's hard to change.
And I think all or nothing and cold turkey and total abstinence, I honestly think there
Oh,
are occasions when
There's
that
a
is,
call coming
oh
in.
shoot.
No.
Shoot. Well,
It's
we're still learning a lot.
We're still learning.
Yeah. Shoot. That totally derailed me.
We were on topics of changing patterns and habits, and when we go balls to the wall, as I like to put it,
Mhm.
when we go balls to the wall,
Mhm.
it doesn't end up really well sometimes. So
Mhm.
it's abstinence.
Yeah. Oh,
Remove
it's
it.
but what I was also saying is that it's complete abstinence or complete, isolation or complete, like all or nothing thinking is really not ideal. So so I tend to try not to go cold turkey on anything, that even if it is something that I'm like, I kind of consider that to be an addiction. But again, in the context of these aren't life-threatening kind of things that we might be using the same phraseology as addiction on, it's just, but it has a flavor, similar flavor.
Ooh, so the definition of addiction that I like from Dr. Gabor Mate.
Oh, please, thanks.
Because this addiction and trauma go hand in hand in many ways, and he also aligns ADD. And so this is a fascinating one. I'm going to get one of his books that specifically talks about ADD. I think it's called The Scattered Mind, and it's his experience with having
I'm
ADHD.
really starting to enjoy themes of reframing ADHD as actually a superpower instead of a liability.
I know, yeah, we look at these things that I honestly feel like are signals. I would say symptoms in the past, but a lot of times symptoms go towards illness.
Yes.
And when we say
that,
like the shift in mental health and mental illness. So I love that, like just reframing and shifting that.
So I think, did you finish saying what Gabor Mate said though? I think
sorry.
I distracted you.
No, I get Fabi. I love we can bring each other back. So Dr. Gabor Mate said that, and this is just my paraphrasing, that addiction is something, an activity or a substance that we use to feel better, satiate ourselves or whatever, but it has long-term negative effects. And I think self-harm can be in there too, and it may not make us feel better, but it can actually stop a certain amount of suffering. I know that was my experience with self-harm. So, and the thing it has to be with addiction is that it's not real in our best interest. It's not actually actively helping us. So I can have an addiction or a passion. That's when it becomes a passion. So for art, it's like, okay, cool. I have art. I'm passionate about it. I have this craving for it. There's a craving for it. I want to do it, but it feeds me. So that's not an addiction. That's where addiction, that's the separation between addiction and passion, where it's something that's harmful and harmful and hard to stop. Or not wanting to stop, or there's a couple other things to it. Yeah. Okay. And so that's the challenge.
Thank you. That's super helpful. Because I have been wanting a updated understanding of addiction. Yeah. But versus genuine excitement and passion and healthy, so I think the other went away again. The other piece that felt really important. Oh, I wanted to make sure that you didn't feel like you were the only one talking about picking, because it's definitely an inflection for me as well. All right, and I don't know what language to use yet because I don't usually talk about it, but I
know it's new for me too.
Yeah,
well, this type of stuff I've had so much shame over. Like, oh my god. Bad. Do we want to talk about that?
Well, I just didn't want you to feel like you were the only one. So I'm game or also okay with skipping it. I also just want to kind of do a time check. I have no idea how much
time check. We are at 2:49 and we started at 2:30 or 2:25.